we should close the window and have the lights on and have the appropriate temperature set for the room in order to have nice climate. So we should probably even open the blinds, put out the lights, put on the ventilation system that works with the recuperators, and save the heat without opening the window. This is a simple, straightforward example of how we can generate energy savings. But in order to do that, of course, we need to have specialists advising us or providing us the guidance and saying us where the energy savings can be made. And when talking about the energy efficiency issues, we always emphasize that you need to have a good expert that can provide advice to you. We have a new profession, by the way, the energy auditor, entering our labor market. The energy auditors that perform the energy audits and provide the schemes for the improvement of the energy efficiency of the house basically are showing us the return on the investments in energy efficiency of the house. Of course, there are better and worse specialists as in any field, but please look for the best specialists, because then you will get a real return on your investment. So for the nearest future, for the period until 2019, the EU directives are prescribing us to introduce the so-called passive houses. If we would look at the moment what has happened with the heat permeability as defined by the standards, and construction specialists call it a U value. The heat permeability basically sets the heat permeability of walls. And if you look at the EU directive, oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was a laser pointer, but so the blue table at the top shows you 0.35 to 0.45. That was the standard applied for 2007. The standard in 2009 was amended and became stricter, 0.2, 0.3, and Latvia is at the moment working based on standard which allows the heat permeability of 0.25 to 0.5. So starting from 2009, all the passive houses that will be built will have to meet the standard of 0.15 U value. Do not care about the values. You can see that starting from 2007 it will basically double, never mind the other aspects. So it means that the heat insulation that we had a couple of years ago, 5 centimeters thick, in 5 years from now will have to be 10 centimeters in order to meet the standards. And if we look at the buildings that have been built in 60s, 70s and 80s, you'll see that the thickness of the heat insulation layers, practically zero. The block houses, the panel houses are not meeting the standards in any way. So the overall global trend is to rely more and more and integrate more and more these more rigorous standards. So this is the thermography shot of a building. The left side is the energy efficient part and the right side is the part of the house or the building which has a lot of heat savings. With the thermocam we can see where the heat losses are occurring, and not everybody of us have access to an energy auditor who has the thermocam, and we shouldn't really do that. I mean, we don't need that. We don't need such a shot in order to establish in what condition the building is. It's just a interesting visual material or aid, if you will, that you can simply perform in order to test the energy efficiency of your building. And it's especially useful for those who don't believe that the house has great energy losses. You can just simply touch the wall. You can see whether it's cold or warm, and these couple of degrees of surface temperature is what allows the heat to escape the house. So it's basically a waste of money, or as I already mentioned, the money that you're just burning. If it's a feast, it's a feast. You drink the champagne, and you just throw this money away, and you do that because you don't have the money. Strangely enough. So here you can see an example again taken from Germany, but the numbers could be the same in Latvia, more or less the same in Latvia, of course, depending on the price of energy resources. But the dark orange are the costs for buildings without heat insulation replaced, so after 10, 15 and 20 years, and the light orange are the costs for energy efficient houses after the replacement of insulation and everything that I already mentioned. The ventilation systems have been replaced and recuperation systems introduced. So the difference is quite great. And this also brings us to the question how to wisely invest in construction or repair works so that our investments are at the minimum, or at least less than shown here. And the success stories from Latvia are showing that we can maintain the same costs at the same time returning the credit that we had acquired in order to perform energy efficiency works. Energy efficiency certificates, this is our future. At the moment we have the legislation in force for the public buildings. Public buildings have to acquire these energy efficiency certificates. Now as you buy the washing machine or an oven, you can see the certification ranging from A to C depending on the energy efficiency of the utensil in question, and the same principle will apply to the building. If we are talking about municipal buildings, if we have municipal specialists here, I would like to invite those municipalities who have already acquired the energy efficiency certificate to apply the pressure on the head of your municipality to put this certificate at the door at the entrance of the municipal building, because these certificates are required for all the public buildings so that all the clients of the municipality can clearly know what is the state of the respective building. If we return to the previous presentation about the weight losing, if we can step on the weights each morning and see how much weight we have lost, the same goes to the building. If you have the energy efficiency certificate hanging on the facade of the building, and if we'll see that the evaluation is in the red zone for the first month, probably we should not make any trouble, but then later on we should start applying some pressure on the municipality and require something to be done about that. Let me just briefly talk about what the industry is doing. And in this case we are addressing only one of the elements. Previously I showed you this house where the heat losses are going out through all the gaps. Now we're talking only about the insulation of facades. Now, in order to design the facade insulation project, you need to follow a number of technical regulations. Why that needs to be done? That needs to be done in order to ensure a guarantee that the results desired will be achieved. What concerns insulation of the facades, there is one peculiar thing. If you, for example, have decided to perform a reconstruction of the facade, you just want to repaint the facade, the repair workers come, they paint, they go away, and on the second day you see, there are some kind of spots already, paint falling off. You can call them back, you can sue them, you can also try to, physically or mentally pressure them. It is either, the problem is either fixed or not. You pay in addition or you don't. But you, in other words, run into problems. What concerns insulated facades, the problem could be that you have participated in the national facade insulation program, you have generated energy saving of 20 or even 20%, you're very happy, the government has returned you 50% of the costs you have borne with respect to the reconstruction, you are feeling warm, you're doing nicely. But you will never know that if the guys would have done the work correctly, you might have saved even 60 to 70% of costs, which is even better. So the results can be half of what can be achieved only because of mistakes in designing and the performance of works. Visually, you might not see even defects in the facade, but the incorrect use of insulation, for example, the air gap between the heat insulation and the wall might again create additional heat losses. So there are different risks, and in order to avoid these risks, the government has introduced certain legal mechanisms to avoid such situations. If possible, we try to insulate the houses or the facades from